Da, da, da. Oh, wait. Look at this. We got like wheat crackers, which is kind of like, I don't know, dried noodles. I don't know, this is dry noodles. Look at this stuff. Yeah, crispy noodle snack. I don't know if you guys have done this before, like those instant ramen bags where you don't cook them, right? You just eat them raw. You just open up the flavoring packages and just pour it in and just start shaking it and breaking up all of the ramen, and then you just eat it. Some brands are really good if you do that. Others are not so good, so you gotta find the right one. And then the rest are friggin' candy. Oh shit. A lot of candy stuff. I'm not gonna eat all of it because I can't. Yeah. Alright, so we'll see how much I can go through. Oh, and we got shrimp chips. Yeah. These are really good. This is yuzu and black pepper flavor, which I've never tried before. I think I'm just gonna open up this thing. Wheat crackers. Tempura flavor. Not all ramen can be eaten raw. Yeah. Alright. ASMR. Come on. It smells shrimpy, like shrimp. Kind of shrimp flavor. Alright. Definitely has a shrimp taste. I don't know about tempura flavor. It says it's tempura flavor. Kinda, but it's mostly shrimp and very salty. But pretty good. Alright. And I spilled it. Oh shit, full screen. Oh. That's what it looks like. Can it focus? Yeah. Oh, pretty good. Alright. That's gonna be my food for the stream. Okay. Are you ready? Let's get started. We're on chapter 7. Yeah. Hey, Yuhin Tom. Thanks for joining. Okay, so what happened last time? It was another big chapter last time. So last time, Ling Hu Chong and Yilin, they were off on their own, talking with each other, having a grand old time. And they meet Liu Jiangfeng and Chu Yang. Remember, those are the that bromance couple that liked to play music. And they escaped, but they're seriously wounded. Okay, so they're dying. And Ling Hu Chong and Yilin meet them, but then also a master of the Songshang school. His name was Fei Bin. also sees them. Okay, and he arrives and he fights. Okay, he wants to kill them all. And in the midst of the fight, he kills Fei Fei, little Fei Fei. Okay, I was so broken up about that. Um, so I think she was what, like 11 years old or something, or 13, something like that. She dies. Fei Fei dies defending her uncle. So poor her. You know, I think we had a moment of silence for her last week. And then after he kills her, the leader of the Hangshang school, his name was Mr. Mo. Remember, he was playing what's the instrument? The fuqin or the huqin, and he he arrives and he pretends to attack Liu Changfeng, but it was just a feint, and he turns around and he kills Fei Bin. Okay, and Fei Bin dies in this spectacular fashion. He has this fountain of blood gushing out of his body, right? And after Mr. Mo does that, he just walks away like a really badass. Right? He just walks in, kills this dude, and then walks away. Now afterwards, the bromance couple, they give Ling Hu Chong a piece of paper containing the music that they made. Okay, so they made a song together, and they called it "Smiling Proud Wanderer." And they were saying like the only regret they have in life is that they couldn't spread this music. So they gave it to Ling Hu Chong, so that after they die, Ling Hu Chong can find 2 other musicians who can play the zither and the flute, and then they can spread this music that they're so proud of. And and then after that they suicide, they kill themselves. And then Ling Hu Chong finds Lin Pingji's parents. Okay, and the parents are also dying. Everyone's dying these days. The parents are also dying. Okay, from the torture they suffered from that Qingcheng school. But luckily, they're happy to find out that Lin Pingji, their son, joined the Huashan school, which is a famous school. And yeah, and that's where we left off. Nikki, that's right. No one was sad when Fei Bin died. Everyone cheered, actually. He died in he had a good death, okay? Fountain of blood, that's a good death. Oh yeah, and we also came up with a ship name for Ling Hu Chong and Yilin, which is Linglin. I like that. Okay, ready? Chapter 7. All right. Chapter 7, Music Score, Part 2. Uncle Lin, don't talk. After my master takes care of the business with Yu Changhai, we'll come back looking for you. The respectful master must have a way to heal you. Ling Hu Chong comforted him. Lin Jinan let out a wry smile. Remember, Lin Jinan is Lin Pingji's dad. Lin Jinan let out a wry smile and then closed his eyes. After a few moments, he spoke again in a low voice. Little brother Ling Hu, I'm not going to make it. I am overjoyed to know that Pingzhi was taken into the Huashan sword school. Will you please help take care of him? Uncle, please don't worry. Apprentice brother Lin will be studying together with us, and we'll be like brothers in a family. I will put in extra efforts to take good care of him, Ling Hu Chong assured him. Thanks to your great kindness, we will be remembering it even after we head into the underworld, Mrs. Lin cut in. Please don't talk much. Concentrate on your breathing and you will feel better, Ling Hu Chong suggested. Lin Jinan appeared to be short of breath. Disjointedly, he said, Will you please tell my son, the thing in the basement of the old Lin house in the Xiangyang alley of Fuzhou has has been handed down in the family from generation to generation. He must take good care of it. But his great-grandfather, Sir Yuan-tu, had said in his last words, "For all my descendants, you shall never read it, or great misfortune will fall upon you. Please tell him to remember that well." Okay, so it looks like the famous martial arts of the Lin family has some dark secrets, okay? And the guy who thought it up, the guy who made it, told all of his descendants, don't read it, or something bad will happen to you. Ah, shit, Nikki. Chapter battle noises. Oh, I forgot. There you go. That's a proper start. Ling Huchong nodded. All right, I will take the message to him, he promised. Lin Junan murmured, many. The word thanks never made it out of his mouth before he fell dead. Oh, another death. Wishing to see his son one last time and tell him these important words himself, Lin Junan had been struggling to hold out. Now, after Ling Huchong gave his word that he would take the message, and knowing his son had found such a good home, in great joy, he had no regrets left. As soon as he gave up on the struggle, he departed with the living world. Young hero, Ling Hu, Mrs. Lin said, I hope you will tell my son never to forget, seeking revenge for his parents. She threw herself toward the stone steps under the columns of the temple and bumped her head hard onto one of the steps. With her previous fatal injuries, the bump killed her instantly. And yet another death. Yeah, great start to the chapter. Ling Huchong heaved a deep sigh and couldn't help thinking aloud. Yu Changhai and Mu Gaofeng both tried to force the whereabouts of the evil resisting sword manuscript out from Lin Junan, but he would rather die than speak out the secret. Only when he knew he was going to die right away, he had no choice but to ask me to take a message. But he still feared that I would go take out the sword manuscript of his Lin family, so he said something like, "You shall never read it, or great misfortune will fall upon you." What kind of person did you think Ling Huchong was? Did you actually think I would covet the sword art manuscript of your Lin family? You were really worrying yourself for nothing. By then he was totally exhausted, so he sat down, leaning against the column, and rested with his eyes shut. A good while passed when Yue Buchun's voice finally rose outside the temple. Yue Buchun is the Huashan leader. Master! Master! Ling Huchong shouted out loud. Is that Chong? Yue Buchun asked in delight. Yes, it's me, Ling Huchong answered. He propped himself up slowly against the column. It was already near dawn, so when Yue Buchun entered the temple, he easily spotted the bodies of the Lin couple. Are they Chief Master Lin and his wife? He asked with a frown. Yes, Ling Huchong answered, and then went ahead and told everything, how Mu Gaofeng had compelled the Lin couple, and how he scared Mu Gaofeng off, but the Lin couple still died because of the injuries. He also told his master the last words of Lin Junan. Ah, Yu Changhai had really committed some terrible sins this time. Yet he got nothing, Yue Buchun muttered to himself. Master, did that dwarf Yu ask you for mercy? Ling Huchong asked in an excited tone. Master Yu has very fast legs. I chased him for quite some time, and yet was only getting further and further behind him. The Qinggong of the Qincheng Sword School is, I guess, somewhat better than ours of the Huashan School, Yue Buchun replied. The Qincheng Sword School's bum-bum back fleeing Kung Fu is definitely better than other schools, Ling Huchong burst into laughter. Yue Buchun pulled a long face and reproached, Chong, you've really gotten a glib tongue with no decency. How would you be a role model for all your apprentice brothers and sisters if you keep acting like this? Ling Huchong turned his head aside, stuck his tongue out, and made a face. Yes, master, he answered. If you agree, then agree. Why did you stick your tongue out when you answered? You are not being honest, Yue Buchun criticized. Yes, master, Ling Huchong replied. Yue Buchun had brought him up since he was little. To him, Yue Buchun was almost like a father figure. Although he revered the master, he never reserved himself much in front of the master. Master, how did you know that I stuck my tongue out? He asked with a grin. Yue Buchun snorted. The muscles under your ears were retracting, so of course you were sticking your tongue out. You always like to run wild. See, you've come to a good grief this time. Are your wounds better now? Yes, they are much better now, Ling Huchong answered, and then added, well, the more grief this time, the smarter next time. Yue Buchun scolded. Don't you think you are too smart already? He took a signal flare out from his pocket and walked into the courtyard. Lighting the fuse with a match, he threw the flare up into the air. The flare rocketed high into the sky, and with a loud bang, it exploded in the air, leaving a trail of silver light in the shape of a long sword hanging in the sky for a long time. Then the sword-shaped light trail descended slowly for a couple 100 feet before finally bursting into hundreds of glitters. That was the type of signal flare used by the headmaster of the Huashan Sword School to call on all school members. Soon, footsteps from a distance rose as someone ran toward the tiny temple. Oh, Sphinx, you missed 6 chapters? It's okay. Okay, you can catch up. Not hard. Master, are you here? Gao Genming's voice shouted from outside. Yes, I am in the temple, Yue Buchun answered. Gao Genming came into the temple and bowed to Yue Buchun. Master. Seeing that Ling Huchong was standing next to the master, he said cheerfully, Big apprentice brother, are you alright? We became really worried when we heard that you were severely wounded. I guess I am plain lucky this time. I am still alive, Ling Huchong said with a smile. More sounds of footsteps came from the distance. It was Lao Dunois, Lu Dayo this time. It was as soon as Lu Dayo saw Ling Huchong, spending no time greeting the master, he rushed straight forth toward Ling Huchong and gave a big hug to him, while shouting happy words wildly. Then the third apprentice, Liang Fa, and fourth apprentice, Xu Daizhi, came into the temple one after another. After a few moments, seventh apprentice Tao Jun, eighth apprentice Ying Luo Bai, Yue Buchun's daughter, Yue Lingshan, and the new apprentice Lin Pinzhi came all at once. So the whole gang is here. The whole Huashan gang. Seeing his parents' bodies, Lin Pinzhi threw himself onto them and began crying bitterly. All the fellow apprentices felt really sorry for him. Yue Lingshan was gleefully surprised when she saw that Ling Huchong was all right. But seeing Lin Pinzhi's bitter grief, she knew it wouldn't be appropriate to express her cheerfulness out loud at this moment, so she walked by Ling Huchong and slightly pinched his right hand. Are you all right? She whispered. I am fine, Ling Huchong answered. For the last couple of days, Yue Lingshan had been worried to death about her big apprentice brother, and now, when she finally bumped into him, all of a sudden, she could no longer control the excitement that had been growing inside her these days. She grabbed onto Ling Huchong's sleeve and burst out crying. Ling Huchong gently patted her on the shoulder. Little apprentice sister, why? Did someone pick on you? I'll go whoop his ass for you, he whispered. Yue Lingshan did not answer and went on weeping. After shedding some more tears, she finally felt better. Wiping off the tears with Ling Huchong's sleeve, she murmured, You are not dead. You are not dead. I am not, Ling Huchong shook his head. I heard that you took a palm strike from that Yu Canghai of the Qincheng school, Yue Lingshan whispered. That man's heart-crushing palm can kill without spilling blood. I've seen him kill many people with my own eyes. I was so scared that... Remembering all the agonizing suffering and torturing she had to go through in the past couple of days, she could not help but start weeping again. I was really lucky that his palm strikes missed me narrowly. It was such a cool scene earlier when the master was fighting with Yu Sanghai and scared him so much that he ran away so fast. Too bad you missed that one, Ling Huchang said with a smile. Let's not mention any of this to any outsiders, Yue Buchun ordered. Ling Huchang and the rest of the apprentices all complied in unison. Yue Lingshan stared at Ling Huchang through her tearful eyes. Ling Huchang looked so wan and sallow. There was little color in his cheeks. Feeling very, very pitiful for him, she sniveled. Big apprentice brother, this time you are so badly wounded. You should have some good rest and recovery once we get back to Mount Huashan. Seeing that Lin Pingzhi was still sobbing bitterly by his parents' bodies, Yue Buchun said, Pingzhi, cry no more. We should make arrangements for the funeral now. Yes, master, Lin Pingzhi stood up and answered, but seeing blood all over his mother's face and forehead, he could not help but shed more tears. When Mom and Dad passed away, they couldn't even see me one last time. They must have wanted to give me some last words of advice, he murmured, sobbing. Apprentice brother Ling Huchang said, I was here when your parents passed away. The two of them wanted me to take care of you. That's something I should be doing anyway. There's not much to talk about that. Your father had some other words that he wanted me to pass on to you. Big apprentice brother, at the time, when my mom and dad passed away, fortunately they had you as a company. Otherwise, they would have had no one around them when they left this world. I am truly grateful, Lin Pingzhi bowed. The rascals of the Qincheng Sword School tortured your parents cruelly in order to force the whereabouts of the evil-resisting sword manuscript out of them, but they never gave in. The torturing busted their heart arteries. Later, that Mu Gaofeng also tried to force information out. But Mu Gaofeng is a mean villain. Doing what he did was not something out of his character. But Yu Sanghai, as the master of a big school, had acted in such a despicable way. Everybody will hold him in contempt, for sure, Ling Huchang said. If I cannot seek my revenge, I will be no better than a pig, Lin Pingzhi vowed with his teeth gnashed. He punched hard on the column. Although his kung fu skills were ordinary, yet because of the great hatred, the punch carried so much strength, and even the dirt atop the crossbeam in the temple started to fall down. Junior brother Lin, Yue Lingshan said, this matter really started because of me. When you settle your score later, as your senior apprentice sister, I definitely won't just stand by with folded arms. Many thanks, senior apprentice sister, Lin Pingzhi bowed. The tenet of our Huashan Sword School has always been, if others don't offend us, we won't offend them, Yue Buchun sighed. Other than our deadly enemy, the demon cult, there's no grudge between any of the schools or clans in the martial world and us. But starting from now, the Qincheng Sword School, well, as a part of the martial world, not offending anyone is so much easier said than done. Little apprentice sister and junior brother Lin, Lao Denois said. This misfortune wasn't really caused by junior brother Lin, because he killed the wicked son of Yu Sanghai to defend justice. It was really because Yu Sanghai coveted the evil-resisting sword manuscript of the Lin family many years ago when the headmaster of Qingcheng Evergreen lost to junior brother Lin's great-grandfather's evil-resisting sword art, and the root of the trouble was already planted. That's right, Yue Buchun said. Most martial people tend to scramble for supremacy and victory. So as soon as they hear about some kind of secret manuscripts of Kung Fu, not even bothering to check if it's real or not, they would all try to secure it by force or by trickery, by hook or by crook. People like Master Yu or Hunchback of the North, who already have elite skills and fames, really have no need to covet the sword art manuscript of your Lin family. Master, my family really do not have any kind of evil-resisting sword manuscript, Lin Pingzhi said. My dad taught me the 72 moves of the evil-resisting sword art, personally and orally. He told me to memorize everything in my head. If there was some kind of sword art manuscript, of course my dad wouldn't tell outsiders anything about it, but why would he keep it Why would he keep it a secret? From me, there's no reason for that. Oh, Nikki, I know. If he'd been 10 minutes earlier, he could have said goodbye to his parents. Ah. Yue Buchun nodded in agreement. I never believed that there was some kind of evil resisting sword manuscript. Otherwise, Yu Sanghai would be no match for your father. It's just so simple and clear. Junior brother Lin, your father wanted me to tell you, in the Qiangyang alley of Fuzhou, Ling Hucheng said. Yue Buchun waved them off. These are the last words of Pingzhi's father. You can tell Pingzhi alone. There's no need for others to hear about it. Yes, master, Ling Hucheng answered. Denhua, Genming, you two go buy 2 coffins in the town of Hangshang, Yue Buchun instructed. After putting the Lin couple into the coffins, they hired some porters to carry the coffins to the river wharf. The group hired a big ship and headed north by water. When they arrived at West Henan province, they changed into traveling by land. Ling Hucheng rested in a wagon through the trip, while his wounds slowly recovered. Days later, they arrived afoot the Jade Maiden Peak of Mount Huashan. The Lin couple's coffins were temporarily placed in a small temple by the side of the peak, so an appropriate date for burial can be decided on later. Gao Genming and Lu Dayou went up the peak ahead of everyone else to inform about the return of the group. Soon, the rest of the Huashan apprentices that stayed on Mount Huashan, about 20 of them or so, came down to greet the master. Lao Dunhua introduced them to Lin Pingzhi one by one. Some elder ones were well over 30 years of age. Some younger ones were only about 15 or 16. Among them were 6 female apprentices. As soon as they spotted Yue Lingshan, they immediately went into chit-chats. The rule of the Huashan Sword School's apprenticeship was that seniority would be based on the date order when each one became an apprentice. So with even the youngest one, Shu Zhi, Lin Pingzhi had to call him senior apprentice brother. Yue Lingshan was the only exception. She was the daughter of Yue Buchun, so she couldn't be ranked using the same ordering system, and had to be called based on age. People older than her called her junior sister. She was really a couple of years younger than Lin Pingzhi, but she firmly insisted on being Lin Pingzhi's senior apprentice sister. Since Yue Buchun did not object, so Lin Pingzhi called her senior apprentice sister. After they all climbed up the peak, Lin Pingzhi followed behind all the senior apprentice brothers. The mountain was very precipitous, yet appeared to be graceful and elegant because of the many ancient trees. Bird tweeting and stream gurgling echoed, making the place a lively environment. Several big houses stood on the side of the hill, some tall, some short, built following the slope of the hill, and all with whitewashed walls. A middle-aged pretty lady slowly walked toward them, and as soon as Yue Lingshan caught the sight of her, she dashed into her arms and shouted excitedly, "Mom, I've got a new junior apprentice brother." She pointed at Lin Pingzhi, smiling. Lin Pingzhi had heard from his senior apprentice brothers that Madame Yue, Ning Zhongzhi, or master wife, as how all the apprentices called her, was really a junior apprentice sister of the master under the same master, and her sword skills were really no less than the master, so he rushed forward and kowtowed. She was a junior apprentice sister of the master under the same master. So, Yue Buchun and his wife had the same master, right? So they were apprentices of the same master, and now they married. Lin Pingzhi here shows his respect to master wife. That's wonderful. Get up, get up, Madame Yue said with a bright smile. She turned to Yue Buchun with a grin. Every time when you go down the mountain, you always seek a couple treasures to satisfy your craving. This time, when you headed for the Hangshan meeting, I figured that you'd be getting at least 3 or 4 new apprentices. How come you only came back with 1? Didn't you always say quality is more important than quantity? What do you think about this one? Yue Buchun grinned. This one is way too handsome. He doesn't look like the kind of material for kung fu training. Why don't you have him study the 4 books and the 5 classics from you? So he will pass the How do you say that, guys? Sui Tai. Sui Tai test someday and maybe become a later. All right, I think we need to look at these references. I'm guessing that Sui Tai is the government test in China. One who passes the imperial examination at the county level in the Ming and Qing dynasty. Yeah, so it is. Chuang Yuan. Title conferred on the one who became first in the highest imperial examination. Okay. So she wants him to study to become what? A government official? Hey, Soro Erie. Thanks for the super chat. Thank you so much. That is very, very generous of you. Lin Pingzhi blushed. Master wife is not taking me seriously because I look gentle and frail. I'll have to work extra hard so I won't be looked down upon. Oh, okay. She didn't want him to do that. She was just teasing him. So I won't be looked down upon because my performance is inferior to the other senior apprentice brothers, he told himself. That's a wonderful idea. If the Huashan Sword School could actually produce a Chuang Yuan, then we would be creating legends for our descendants, Yue Buchun answered with a grin. Madame Yue glared at Ling Huchong. You got into fights with others and now wounded again, didn't you? How come you don't look so well right now? Were you severely wounded? She asked. It's already much better now. If I hadn't been lucky this time, I probably wouldn't have make it back to see you again. Ling Huchong replied with a slight smile. Madame Yue gave him another glare. It's a good lesson for you to learn that there's always stronger than the strong. Did you think you lost in a fair fight? I couldn't fend off the fellow Xiangbo Guang's fast knife chops. Master wife, would you please give me some pointers? Ling Huchong requested. Hearing that it was Tianbo Guang who had injured Ling Huchong, Madame Yue nodded, while a big smile blossomed on her face. So, you were fighting the villain Tianbo Guang. That's great. I thought you stirred up disputes and got into trouble again. How were his fast knife chops? Let's think it over and refine your techniques so you can fight him again. During the trip back home, Ling Huchong had asked several times for advice from his master about techniques to counter Tianbo Guang's fast knife chops, but Yue Buchun had not said any word in regard, and simply told him to ask his master wife once they were back to Mount Huashan. Sure enough, as soon as Madame Yue heard about it, she got so excited that she almost wished she could get onto it the very moment. The bunch went into the house Yue Buchun lived in, House of Integrity, and talked about events that had happened since the two groups separated. The 6 female apprentices really envied Yue Lingshan when they heard about her adventure in the town of Fuzhou and in the town of Hangshang. Lu Dayou, on the other hand, really bragged about how the big apprentice brother had fought the fierce fights with Tianbo Guang and how he had slain Luo Ranjie to the bunch of junior apprentice brothers. He added many inflammatory details to the story, and it sounded as if big apprentice brother had defeated Tianbo Guang instead of suffering a crushing defeat. After they had some snacks and tea, Madame Yue asked Ling Huchong to emulate Tianbo Guang's knife moves and also inquired about how he had countered them. Whew. Alright, guys. Let's take a break. 5-minute break. I'll be right back. And welcome back. House of Integrity. Yeah. A good house name. I do listen to a lot of classic Cantonese Wuxia songs. Why not? They're so good. Or maybe because like they play them every episode, so it just gets into your head and stuck in your head, stuck in my head. Janeri Ochoa. Hey Linfamy, what languages do you speak? I speak English, kind of, and Vietnamese. That's it. Yeah, my Vietnamese is okay. Like it's conversational. Not as okay as my parents would like it to be, as my dad will tell you. But yeah, it's pretty good. All right. Oh, I should eat something else. Okay, how about some sweets this time? Oh. Yeah, different snacks. All right, this is a matcha green tea filled biscuit sticks. This is like a Pocky, but instead of the flavoring on the outside, it's on the inside. All right, let's see how this goes. I'm gonna guess that it tastes like a Pocky. Oh, should I do an unboxing? I don't know, do people do that? Alright. Okay. Ooh. That looks good. There's a green tea on the inside. Oh. Matcha. So good. I was right. It tastes like a Pocky. Exactly like a Pocky. Pronounce it. Yep. I'm gonna say P-Joy. I love that P-Joy, man. It's delicious. Wow. That looks so good. Oh, it's really good. Oh. You guys. I have to have another one. This is my work, guys. Just eating food on stream. It's pretty sweet. That P-Joy is really good. Make a story about the Motion War. That's a long time away. It's gonna be a while before we get to that. All right. Enough of that. Okay, so they reached Huashan Mountain, and they're back at home in the Huashan school. Where were we? Okay, so Ling Hucheng is showing Madame Yue his how he fought with Tian Boguang, and she's teaching him how to defend against those attacks. That chap, Tian Boguang's knife skills are excellent. I was simply dazzled just looking at the chops, having a hard time fending them off. How could I have countered them? Ling Hucheng answered with a grin. If you couldn't fend them off, then you must have used all kinds of tricks in a slick way to cheat your way through, Madame Yue concluded. She had raised Ling Hucheng up, so of course she had a very good idea of Ling Hucheng's character. Ling Hucheng blushed. When I fought Tianbo Guang outside the cave, the apprentice sister of the Hangshang Sword School had left, and I no longer had any scruple, so I fought the chap, Tianbo Guang, with all my heart. But not far into the fight, he started using his fast knife chop moves. After fending off only 2 of those moves, I was already groaning inwardly. Looks like I am dead meat, so I started laughing loudly. Tianbo Guang pulled his knife back. What's so funny? He asked. Do you think you can fend off my 13 stances of windstorm knife chops? I said, aha! So the well-known Tianbo Guang is actually an expelled apprentice of our Huashan sword school. I had no idea, really no idea. I got it, you must have been kicked out of our school because of your dreadful personal character. Tianbo Guang said, expelled Huashan apprentice? What kind of nonsense is that? My kung fu is of its own style. What the hell has it got anything to do with your Huashan sword school? I said, this set of knife moves has a total of 13 stances, right? Windstorm? Did you just pick a nice random name for it? I've seen my master and master wife use those during practices before. My master wife created those out of a sudden inspiration when she was embroidering. You must know that we've gotten a Jade Maiden Peak in Mount Huashan, don't you? Tianbo Guang answered, yeah, everybody knows there's a Jade Maiden Peak in Mount Huashan. What about it? I answered, this set of sword art, created by my master wife, is called the 13 Stances of Jade Maiden's Golden Needle. One of them is called Threading the Needle, and another one is called Seamless Heavenly Robe. There's also another one called Late Night Embroidering of the Loving Birds. Then I started counting with my fingers as I spoke. I said, that's right, the 2 moves you just used were evolved from the 8th move created by my master wife. Weaving Goddess, throwing the shuttles. Why would a valiantly and hefty fellow like you imitate the manners of my affectedly sweet master wife and throw the shuttle with the pretty hands from left to right, then right to left, like how the gorgeous-looking Weaving Goddess would have when she is sitting by a weaving loom? Don't you think that's just hilarious? Before he even finished, Yue Lingshan and the bunch of female apprentices all started giggling. That's too mischievous, Yue Buchun scolded, yet could not help but grin. Bah! Madame Yue spat at Ling Hucheng. Why couldn't you use some other materials for your nonsense? I had to get your master wife involved. You really deserve a good beating. Master wife, you don't understand, Ling Hucheng grinned. That Tianbo Guang is rather conceited. When he heard that I was comparing him to a woman, and that my master wife created her own magical knife moves, he had to argue about it, and definitely wouldn't just kill me right away. Sure enough, he started to show me the moves of that set of knife chops one by one, slowly. Each time when he was demonstrating one, he would ask, did your master wife create this one? I pretended to be very secretive about it, and kept my silence, while secretly memorizing his knife moves. I waited until he was done demonstrating all 13 stances, and then said, this set of knife arts of yours only has very slight deviations from the one created by my master wife, but the majority of it is still the same. This is really odd. How did you steal it from our Huashan sword school? Alright, Evil Sin. Night-night. Bye. Go back to sleep. Starter 9000. This is a Bugs Bunny move. Yeah, Tianbo Guang doesn't seem very smart. He's like... he's an evil, dumb dude. Tianbo Guang said angrily, you couldn't fend off this set of knife arts of mine. That's why you simply made things up to stall time so you can investigate the moves of my knife art. Did you think I am stupid? But dude, you just showed him already. You said your school has the same set of knife art. Then please show them to me and help me broaden my horizon. I said, First of all, our school uses swords, not knives. Secondly, this set of Jade Maiden's golden needle sword of my master wife is only taught to female apprentices, not male apprentices. If we hefty guys had to use such sissy-looking sword art, wouldn't we become the laughingstocks of the entire martial world? Tianbo Gong became even more angry. He yelled, "Whether I become the laughingstock or not, I am going to make you admit that the Huashan Sword School does not have this set of kung fu. Brother, I admire your courage, but you shouldn't wag your tongue so freely and make fun of me." "Who cares if such a shameless villain admires you or not? He deserves to be made fun of," Yue Lingshan interrupted. "But in that circumstance," Ling Huchang said, "if I did not demonstrate this made-up set of Jade Maiden's golden needle sword in front of him, I'd be dead by now. So with no other choices, I had to add some affectedly bashful moves at random based on his knife art, and demonstrated the moves." "Did these affectedly bashful moves of yours look real?" Yue Lingshan giggled. I've seen you use your sword many times. How could they not look real?" Ling Huchang grinned. "Ah, you are making fun of me, saying that I use my sword in an effectively bashful way. I'm not going to talk to you for 3 days." Madame Yue had been quiet for the time being, and finally she spoke out. "Lingshan, give your sword to big apprentice brother." Yue Lingshan drew her longsword and handed it to Ling Huchang with the handle first. "Mom wants to see the wicked look of yours with those affectedly bashful moves," she said with a grin. "Chong, don't pay attention to Lingshan. Now, how did you demonstrate the moves at that time?" Madame Yue asked. Ling Huchang knew that master wife meant to see Tambo Guang's knife moves. He took the long sword and then bowed to the master and master wife. Master wife, may I demonstrate Tianbo Guang's knife moves now?" Yue Buchun nodded. "Junior brother Lin," Lu Dayo said to Lin Pingzhi, "this is a rule of our school. Every time before an apprentice performs moves in front of the elders, he must first ask for permission." "I see. Thanks for telling me, sixth apprentice brother," Ling Pingzhi said. Ling Huchang yawned languidly with a slight smile on his face, and then held up his arms sluggishly as if he was going to stretch himself. But suddenly he snapped his right wrist speedily and chopped 3 chops continuously. The chops were almost as fast as flashes, and whistles from the sword slashes echoed. All the apprentices were shocked, and a few of the female apprentices uttered a cry of surprise, almost in unison. Ling Huchang started to chop, slice, slash, and stab the longsword in all directions. The moves appeared as if they were going in all directions, randomly and disorderly. But in Yue Buchun and Madame Yue's eyes, the dozens of moves were clear and distinct. Every hack, thrust, slash, or chop was vicious yet accurate. Only moments later, Ling Huchang had pulled the sword back and stood still to bow to the master and master wife. Yue Lingshan was a bit disappointed. "That fast?" she said. "It has to be that fast," Madame Yue nodded. "Within those 13 stances of fast knife chops, each stance has 3 or 4 moves of variation. Over 40 moves had passed within such a short period of time. This is really an exceptional set of fast knife art." "When the chap Tianbo Guang used it, he was way faster than what I've just demonstrated," Ling Huchang added. Madame Yue and Yue Buchun looked at each other, but couldn't help but feeling some admiration and surprise inwardly. "Big apprentice brother, how come you didn't look anything close to affectedly bashful?" Yue Lingshan asked mockingly. For the last several weeks, I've been thinking about this set of fast knife chops all the time. So of course, when I showed them, I was able to do it a little bit faster. That day, when I was showing them to Tianbo Guang in the remote mountain area, I wasn't doing it as fast. I had to intentionally make those moves similar to his moves, yet different, as well as putting on an act with many postures of a lady before it was even slower. Therefore, it was even slower, Ling Huchang explained with a smile. "How did you put on the postures of a lady? Show me, show me," Yue Lingshan requested, her face split into a big grin. Madame Yue turned to her side and drew a longsword from one of her female apprentices. Use the fast knife chops, she demanded. Yes, Ling Huchong answered, and with a loud swoosh, his longsword circled around Madame Yue's body, and the blade chopped toward her lower back. Mom, look out! Yue Lingshan cried out in shock. Madame Yue threw herself forward, completely ignoring Ling Huchong's chop from her back, and her sword tip went straight toward Ling Huchong's chest, and also extremely fast and swift. Big Apprentice brother, watch out! Yue Lingshan uttered another cry. Ling Huchong didn't block either. Master wife, he was way faster, he said, as he chopped backward with his sword. Madame Yue attacked with another 3 thrusts, and Ling Huchong also returned the attacks with 3 chops. The two both fought with fast attacking moves, and none used any defending moves to block. Within a short moment, the two had exchanged over 20 moves. Lin Pingzhi was dumbstruck. Big Apprentice brother speaks and acts like a lunatic, but his kung fu skills are excellent. I'll have to train really hard, with no slack any time whatsoever, so others won't belittle me, he told himself. Right at the moment, with a quick thrust, Madame Yue's sword tip had touched Ling Huchong's throat. Not able to dodge that, Ling Huchong muttered, he can block that. Fine, Madame Yue shouted. She waved her sword, and a couple of moves later, her sword tip stopped next to Ling Huchong's heart. He can block that, Ling Huchong muttered the second time. What he meant was that even though he wasn't able to block it, Tianbo Guang would have been able to block those 2 moves because his knife chops were a lot faster. The two fought faster, and soon, Ling Huchong didn't even have any time to spill the words, he can block that. Whenever Madame Yue's sword tip pointed next to his vital body parts, he simply shook his head to signal that the move would not have worked on Tianbo Guang. Madame Yue was really in the mood now. She was totally carried away. Suddenly, with a loud and clear roar, she thrust the sword rapidly around Ling Huchong's body. The sword tip flashed about as if it was everywhere. The silver reflection circled around and blurred the audience's eyes. Suddenly, she pushed the sword straight toward Ling Huchong's heart in the speed of light with the strength of a thunder. Ling Huchong was dumbfounded. Master wife, he cried. By then, the sword tip had already penetrated his robe. Madame Yue's right hand still pushed forward until the hand guard of the longsword touched Ling Huchong's chest. It seemed as though the sword had went through Ling Huchong's body all the way to the end of the sword. Mom! Yue Lingshan screamed. Then sounds of clatter and jingle echoed when pieces of inch-long steel fell down to the floor by Ling Huchong's feet. Madame Yue smiled as she pulled her hand back. In her hand, all there was left of the longsword was only the sword handle. Junior Apprentice sister, your inner energy has really progressed, and you kept it well from me, Yue Buchun said happily. The two of them had studied under the same master. They were used to the way they had called each other in their youth, so after they got married, they still called each other apprentice sister and brother. Senior Apprentice brother is really flattering me. These were just insignificant skills, nothing to be mentioned about, Madame Yue said with a smile. Staring at the pieces of broken sword, Ling Huchong gasped with astonishment. Master wife must have thrust the sword out with her whole might. Otherwise, without the full strength of her inner energy, the sword thrust would not have had such extraordinary speed. As soon as the sword tip reached the skin, she immediately retracted the vigorous inner energy and changed the direction of the strength from horizontal to vertical, and the great shock from the inner energy strength broke the longsword into inch-long pieces. The superb inner energy manipulation had really reached the level of perfection. In great admiration, he said, even if Tianbo Guang's knife chops were faster, he still would not have escaped this thrust of yours, master wife. Lin Pingzhi stared at the many holes all over Ling Huchong's robe, which all came from Madame Yue's sword thrusts, and almost couldn't believe his own eyes. There are actually sword arts this fantastic in the world? All I need is a portion of that, and I'd have enough skills to avenge my parents. He then thought, the Qincheng Sword School and Mu Gaofeng both coveted our family's evil-resisting sword manuscript. But when comparing our family's evil-resisting sword art to the sword art of Master Wife, they are as far apart as from heaven to earth. Madame Yue was quite contented. Chong, since you say this move can kill Tianbo Guang, if you train hard, I'll teach it to you, she said. Thanks to Master Wife, Ling Huchong replied. Mom, I want to learn it too, Yue Lingshan demanded. Your inner energy is not there yet. You won't be able to learn this move. Madame Yue shook her head. Very discontented, Yue Lingshan pouted her lips. Big Apprentice Brother's inner energy is not that much better than mine. Why can't he learn it? But not me, she complained. Madame Yue did not answer, and only smiled. Yue Lingshan grabbed onto her father's sleeve and begged, Father, you teach me a kung fu that will counter that move, in case Big Apprentice Brother picks on me after he learns that sword move. This sword move of your mom's is called Unrivaled and Unmatched, the Thrust of Ning. Since it's unrivaled, how could I have anything to counter it? Yue Buchun shook his head and grinned. That's nonsense. It's alright that you flattered me, but once the name spreads out, fellow martial people will laugh their teeth off for sure, Madame Yue smiled. This sword move was really created out of a sudden inspiration of Madame Yue. It contained the Huashan inner energy style, the Huashan sword techniques, plus some of her clever inventions, so it was indeed a devastating move. But since it had just been created, there was no name for it. Yue Buchun had thoughts of naming it the Unrivaled Thrust of Madame Yue, but then he thought that his wife had always been valuing her own pride. Even after they got married, she still liked when fellow martial people called her Heroine Ning instead of Madame Yue. Calling her Heroine Ning would be praising her own skills and behavior, and calling her Madame Yue would only make it sound like she was relying on her world-renowned husband. Although Madame Yue called her husband's words nonsense, she truly liked the name Unrivaled and Unmatched, the Thrust of Ning, and praised inwardly that her husband, as a scholar, had really thought of a wonderful name for her new move. Father, when are you going to create the incomparable and unparalleled the 10 thrusts of Yue, and then teach them to your daughter so I can challenge Big Apprentice Brother? Yue Lingshan asked. No, I cannot. Dad is not as smart as your mom. I don't know how to create new moves. Yue Buchun shook his head. It's not that you don't know, it's just that you are afraid of your wife and dared not to create any, Yue Lingshan whispered at her father's ear. Yue Buchun burst into loud laughter. Total nonsense, he denied, as he gave a gentle pinch to Yue Lingshan's cheek. Lingshan, don't get wild with your father. Dunhua, go arrange the ritual so your apprentice brother Lin can pay his respects to the spirits of all the former Grand Masters of our sword school, Madame Yue instructed. Yes, Lao Dunhua answered, and soon had everything ready. Yue Buchun led the group into the back hall. Lin Pingzhi could see a banner board hanging high in the middle of the room, and the words, Inner Energy Drives the Sword, were inscribed up onto the board. The hall was decorated in a very serious and solemn manner. Swords after swords hung by the two side walls. The sheaths were pitch black, and the tassels all appeared to be ancient. Lin Pingzhi figured that those swords must have been the swords of all those former Grand Masters of the Huashan Sword School. He thought to himself, Huashan Sword School has such a great fame and reputation in the martial world today. There must be heaps of evil villains who died from these Grandmasters' longswords. Yue Buchun knelt in front of the incense burner table and kowtowed 4 times. Apprentice Yue Buchun is taking Lin Pingzhi of Fuzhou as my apprentice today. All the ancestor spirits in heaven, will you please bless Lin Pingzhi and watch out for him? I have him study and train hard, preserve his purity, follow the school rules, and never harm the reputation of the Huashan Sword School, he prayed. Hearing these words from Yue Buchun, Lin Pingzhi knelt down behind him, respectfully. Yue Buchun stood up. Lin Pingzhi, he said coldly, you are taken into our Huashan Sword School today. You must follow the school rules strictly. If you ever violate any of them, you will be punished based on the severity. If the violation were severe, you would be beheaded with no pardon. Our sword school has been in the martial world for hundreds of years. Although we are capable of striving for supremacy with other schools using our kung fu skills, temporary victories are really not worth mentioning. The real important thing is that members of our school all greatly value the reputation of our school. You must remember that well. Yes, master. I will always keep your advice and instruction in my heart, Lin Pingzhi promised. Ling Huchong, recite the school rules to Lin Pingzhi, Yue Buchun ordered. Yes, master, Lin Huchong answered. Apprentice brother Lin, listen carefully. Firstly, any deceiving behavior to the master and all disrespectful behavior to the seniors is prohibited. Secondly, bullying the weak and hurting the innocent is prohibited. Thirdly, assailing of women with obscenities is prohibited. Fourthly, jealousy and killing between school members are prohibited. Fifthly, stealing and forsaking righteousness for the lust of gain is prohibited. Sixthly, conceited and arrogant attitudes when dealing with fellow martial people are prohibited. Seventhly, reckless collaboration with gangsters or evil and wicked is prohibited. These are the 7 prohibitions of Huashan. All members of the Huashan Sword School have to follow them. Yes, I promise to remember the 7 Huashan prohibitions that big apprentice brother just informed me. I will follow all the rules and never dare to violate any of them, Lin Pingzhi promised sincerely. You know, in these stories, they always have really good memories. Like, how does anyone remember those 7 things? Apparently, Lin Pingzhi did. Everything is prohibited. Yeah. Well, that's it. Yue Buchun smiled. Our school is not like most other schools that have many rules and regulations. As soon as you remember these 7 prohibitions well, and always remember to uphold humanity and righteousness above everything else, behaving like a true gentleman, you'll keep the master and the master wife happy. Yes, master, Lin Pingzhi answered. He kowtowed to the master and the master wife, then bowed to and saluted all apprentice brothers and sisters. Pingzhi, let's first bury your parents to let you fulfill your duty as the son. Then I will start teaching you the basic drills of our sword school, Yue Buchun said. Tears instantly filled Lin Pingzhi's eyes. Many thanks to master and master wife, he said, kneeling down on the floor. Yue Buchun propped him up. In our school, he said kindly, everybody is like a member of a big family. When one has a matter to deal with, it becomes a matter for the entire group. You don't have to be so courteous. Yue Buchun turned around and looked at Ling Huchong up and down. After quite a while, he finally said, Chong, this time after you left Mount Huashan, how many prohibitions have you violated? Dun dun dun. All right, let's take a break. Another 5 minutes or however long our song is. All right, guys, be right back. Welcome back. Oh, what song is that? Let me put it in the chat. Give me a second. Okay. Let's see. What should I eat? This looks really good. I can't wait. Now this one is a Pocky. Look at that. Look at that. It's almond and chocolate on a Pocky stick. Ah. All right. You guys, look at that. Oh, so good. It looks amazing. Oh. Oh. That's good shit. No, it's really good. It tastes exactly like a pocky steak with chocolate and almonds. Oh. You've always wanted to try those? Yeah, do it. I bought these at Daiso, so you can probably go there and get it. Really good. Oh, hey, derpy Pikachu. All right, so Ling Wuchang's master asked him, so how many prohibitions have you violated? Uh-oh, not good. Ling Wuchang's heart skipped a beat. He knew that in normal days, the master was always kind and loving to all the apprentices, but if anyone violated school rules, he would be punishing the violator severely, without any mercy. So he knelt down in front of the incense burner table. I have realized my mistake, he said. I did not listen to the advice from master and master wife. I violated the sixth prohibition of being conceited and arrogant when dealing with fellow martial people. I killed Luo Ranjie of the Jincheng Sword School on top of the Huaiyan wine house in the town of Hangshang. Yue Buchun let out a snort with a stern face. Father, it was Luo Ranjie who had bullied Big Apprentice Brother. All that time, Big Apprentice Brother just had a fierce fight with Tianbo Guan and was severely injured. Luo Ranjie took advantage of Big Apprentice Brother. How could Big Apprentice Brother just let himself get killed like that? Yue Lingshan argued. This matter does not concern you. This really started because Chong kicked the two Qincheng apprentices earlier. If it weren't because of the grudge before, why would that Luo Ranjie take advantage of Chong when everything is perfectly alright? Yue Buchun reproved. When Big Apprentice Brother kicked the Qincheng apprentices, you had already given him 30 sticks of beating as punishment. That matter was over. You cannot count that one in again. Big Apprentice Brother is so badly injured, he can't take any more beating now, Yue Lingshan pleaded. Yue Buchun gave a strict glare at his daughter. We are talking about school prohibitions right now. You are an apprentice of the Huashan Sword School. Shut up and don't interrupt me, he yelled sharply. Yue Lingshan rarely received any harsh words or stern looks from her father. Feeling the grievance, her eyes reddened and she almost fell into a cry. During normal days, even if Yue Buchun ignored his daughter, Madame Yue would have comforted her with kind words. But since Yue Buchun was judging school matters as the headmaster at the moment, it wouldn't be appropriate for Madame Yue to help her daughter, so she had to pretend that she didn't see or hear anything. Yue Buchun continued with Ling Huchong. When Luo Ranjie took advantage of you and humiliated you, you would rather die than submit. That was something a true man would have done. But why did you offend the Hangshang Sword School in your words and said something like, once seeing a nun, one loses all bets, and that even I was afraid of seeing nuns? Yue Lingshan burst into laughter. Father, she yelled. Yue Buchun waved her off, but had dropped his stern look. Ling Huchang explained, I only wanted to get the apprentice sister of the Hangshang Sword School to leave at that time. I knew I was no match for Tianbo Guang in a fight, and would have no way to rescue the apprentice sister of the Hangshang Sword School, but she valued the brotherhood of fellow martial people and didn't want to leave first, so I had to make up some nonsense. That kind of nonsense is truly disrespectful to the uncle master of the Hangshang Sword School. You wanted to get nephew apprentice Yilin to leave. The intention was good, but why can't you say something else instead of such harmful words? It was all because you are used to being frivolous in normal days. By now, everybody in the Five Mountains Sword Alliance has heard about this incident. Others must be saying behind our backs that you are not a true gentleman, and blame me for not disciplining you properly. Yue Buchun reproached. Yes, master, I was wrong, Ling Huchang admitted. Yue Buchun continued. When you were recovering in the Jade House, we understand that you had no other options. But when you hid nephew apprentice Yilin and that little demon girl of the demon cult under the quilt and claimed that it was a prostitute in the town of Hangshan, weren't you risking too much? If they had actually found out about the truth, losing face and hurting the reputation of our Huashan Sword School would be secondary. Wouldn't you do a disservice to the entire Hangshan Sword School by ruining their hundreds of years of reputation? Cold sweat broke out on Ling Huchang's back. Later, when I thought more about it, I was so breathless with anxiety. So, master, you have already known about it, he said with a trembling voice. I only heard about how you, Chu Yang of Demon Cult, sent you to the Jade House to recover later, Yue Buchun said. But when you told those two girls to hide under the quilt, I was already outside of the window. Fortunately, master, you know that I am not a reckless loafer, Ling Huchang said. If you had actually been sleeping with prostitutes, I'd have chopped off the head of your neck a long time ago. How could I still let you live till now? Yue Buchun said in a chilling tone. Yes, master, Ling Huchang answered. Yue Buchun's face turned more and more serious. After quite a while, he spoke again. You already knew that the Chu-named girl was a member of the demon cult. Why didn't you kill her with a single sword blow? Although her grandfather had saved your life, it was obviously an evil plot the demon cult had put together, using favor as bait to foment discord among our Five Mountains Sword Alliance. You are not stupid. You had to have figured that part out. There was actually a bigger conspiracy, and saving your life was only a small part of it. Even Liu Changfeng, such a smart and experienced senior master, fell into their trap and ended up ruining his reputation and getting his entire family killed. You have seen such vicious and evil acts of the demon cult with your own eyes, but on our way from Hunan back to Mount Huashan, I didn't hear a single word of condemnation to the demon cult out from your mouth. Chong, I think after he saved your life, you are really getting confused about the distinction between good and evil, honesty and treachery. This matter is the key matter that will affect the rest of your entire life. There's no middle ground for you to muddle with. We need a laugh sound? Well, not now. Maybe later. Ling Huchang couldn't help but remember the nights in the remote valley when he listened to the zither and flute music played by Chu Yan and Liu Changfeng. It didn't seem like that Chu Yang had any evil thoughts and intentionally harmed Liu Changfeng at all. Seeing the hesitation on Ling Huchang's face, obviously suspicious about his words, Yue Buchun said, Chang, this matter is related to the future of our Huashan Sword School. It is also related to your future success or failure of your entire life. You cannot hide anything from me. Let me ask you, when you meet a member of the demon cult later, are you going to be treating evil as your enemy and slay evil with no hesitation? Ling Huchang stared at his master blankly. A thought kept flashing around in his mind. Later, when I meet with a member of the demon cult, should I simply draw my sword and kill him without checking if it's right or wrong? He really couldn't decide for himself, so he didn't know how to answer the master's question. Yue Buchun stared at Ling Huchang for a long time, but still did not get an answer out from him. He heaved a deep sigh. It would be useless to force an answer out of you. When you left Mount Huashan this time, you greatly damaged the reputation of our sword school. I hereby punish you to meditate, facing the wall, for an entire year, so you can think the matter through thoroughly. A year? Yes, master. I accept my punishment, Ling Huchang bowed down. Meditating, facing a wall, for an entire year? Then throughout the year, how many total hours does he have to meditate? Yue Lingshan asked. What total hours? Every day from morning to night, other than eating and sleeping, he will be meditating to go over his mistakes. That's terrible. Wouldn't he be bored to death? Will he even be allowed to go to the bathroom? Yue Lingshan said in a worry. Watch your manners, young lady, Madame Yue reproved. What's the big deal about meditating for a year? Yue Buchun said. Years ago, when your grandmaster made some mistakes, he was punished to meditate facing a wall for 3 years and 6 months. During that entire period of time, he did not take one single step down the Jade Maiden Peak. Yue Lingshan stuck her tongue out in disbelief. So meditating for an entire year is actually a light punishment? Big Apprentice Brother said, once seeing a nun, one loses all bets, completely out of good intentions. He wasn't really saying bad words. Just because he had good intentions, I am only punishing him with 1 year of meditation. If he had any ill intentions, I'd have knocked off all his teeth and cut off his tongue, Yue Buchun said. Lingshan, stop bothering your father, Madame Yue said. When your big apprentice brother starts meditating on top of the Jade Maiden Peak, you'd better not go up there to chat with him. Otherwise, the good intention of your father would be ruined by you for sure. Big apprentice brother is going to be a prisoner on top of the Jade Maiden Peak, and you still call that a good intention? If you don't allow me to chat with him, then when big apprentice brother gets lonely, who's going to cheer him up? And within the entire year, who's going to practice sword arts with me? Yue Lingshan whined. If you go chatting with him, then how will he be able to meditate, and how can he think his mistakes through? All the many apprentice brothers and sisters can practice sword arts with you, Madame Yue said. Yue Lingshan leaned her head to the side and thought for a while. Then what's big apprentice brother going to eat? If he doesn't come down the peak for an entire year, isn't he going to be starved to death? She asked. You don't have to worry. We will have people bringing up food. You don't have to worry. We will have people bringing food up the mountain for him, Madame Yue answered. All right. For a year, guys. 1 year. Just for saying one line. This Yue Buchun guy is very strict. Oh, daughter, you're right. So Ling Hu Chong is like neutral good. Yeah. Oops. Sorry. 1 second. Yeah. Ling Hu Chong is like neutral good. Yue Buchun is what? Lawful good. Okay, so it looks like Yilin has some competition from Yue Lingshan. All right, what do I do now? Should I eat all of this? This is way too much. I can finish this or just, but that's it, I think. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, one more. All right. What if I eat all of this at once? Do you think I can do that? It might fit in my mouth. It's only 5 though. All right, guys. Cheers. Oh, wait. Hold on. All right, our tradition, 1 fireball. Cheers. Whew. All right, guys. 5 Pockies. Oh, it looks so good. Ah. Mm. Mm. Good stuff. Mm. Pockies are good because they're small. It's okay. I have another packet for later. Mm. Mm. Good shit. Oh my god, you're going to be constipated? It's not that much, right? It's like 5 Pocky sticks. In addition to the 2 others that I ate. Oh. Nikki is chaotic evil. Yeah, I believe it. I believe it, Nikki. Alright, guys. Hey, thanks for coming. Alright, I will see you next week. I'll be in the Discord for a bit. So, join if you want to. What is it called? It's called, I showed it before, but it's Pocky. And it's an almond crush flavor. So it's basically Pocky with chocolate and almond. It's really good. Alright, guys. I'll see you. I love you. See you next week.